Hey everybody, I'm Matt Hernandez, and today we're going to talk about my first football game of the season with my new A9III and 300 2.8. Okay, so it's my favorite time of the year. It's football season, and I just got my A9III. I've got the battery pack on it here, and 300 2.8. And I got to shoot my first game with it this last Saturday. It was usually, obviously, the games are on Fridays, but first game of the year is on Saturday, Paducah-Tillman and McCracken County. It's a big rivalry in Paducah. So I was really excited to try both these out, see how they perform. I knew they were going to be great, but it's always fun to shoot with, a new camera and a new lens for the first time. So let's look at some of the shots I got. I'll talk about my settings and how I shot the game, and let's go ahead and dive in here. So we're going to look in Lightroom. I figured this would be probably the best way to look at these, just because I can color code them easily and filter them. I feel like that I'd use Photo Mechanic actually to edit most of my action shots, but if there's any toning or anything that needs to be done, you can do those in Camera Raw. Lightroom's also a good option, but as far as culling and going through the pictures quickly, Photo Mechanic is the better option. It's faster, and you can crop fairly easily too. It's good for metadata, keywording, renaming your pictures, that kind of thing. So if you know you got the shots right, and there's not going to be a whole lot of editing in post afterwards, which there shouldn't be, Photo Mechanic's really the way to go. Now, if you do need to adjust them, or if you shoot raw, then Capture One and Lightroom, either one is going to be good. I feel like that it's kind of weird because I do use Capture One to edit most of my portrait shoots, or pretty much all of them. I feel like Lightroom, even though I've been using Capture One for like 4 years now, I'm still faster in Lightroom, and I don't know if it's because it's more user-friendly with the shortcuts or what, but if I were going to edit action shots, a whole take in a program other than Photo Mechanic, it would probably be Lightroom. I actually used to do that, and it kind of bothers me the way that it crops reverse, like you move it the opposite way that you would think. But other than that, it's really good. But anyway, that's just kind of a side note. But so let's go ahead and look at them here and see what we got. Okay. So first, I will say that I was extremely impressed. I was a little bit worried just because the A9III is only 25 megapixels. So I didn't know, you can set the camera, and I've actually got, so on mine, I set it up to where the AEL button punches into 1.5 on the crop. So whenever I've had a bigger megapixel camera like the A1, then that was not a big deal at all, because it basically went from like 50. I'm going to get that fly if it comes back, just so everybody knows. Don't be alarmed if I get out my towel here and attack it. Okay. I've been trying to get it since we started filming. Okay. Sorry about that. So the A1 is 50 megapixels. When you punch into 1.5 and go to crop mode on the camera, when you're taking action shots or anytime, I think it cuts it in half. I'm not exactly sure, but I know it goes down with it's basically just like cropping the picture, right? So zooming in pretty much in camera. When you do it with this one, it's only 25 megapixels to start with, so I was a little bit worried. I looked at a file in Photoshop, and I think they're 18 by 33, around a 13 point something, but that's still an acceptable image. So once I saw that, God, dang it, I didn't get it. Okay, because this one's only 25 megapixels, I was a little bit worried about punching into 1.5 with the 300. But then when I looked it up in Photoshop to see what file size it was actually 18 by 13 and some change. So that's definitely acceptable. So not a big deal. So I did that a lot actually during the game, and I'm going to show you some of those. So I'm going to show you full frame. I'm going to show you some different ISOs. Then I'm going to show you 1.5 cropped, and then I'm going to show you full frame cropped and 1.5 cropped also. Okay. All right. And I was also curious to see how the ISO was going to fare, because a lot of people were skeptical about that when the camera came out, but I will say it did very good. So, all right, so let's look at the beginning here. All right, let's go to full frame first. Okay, so here's a picture at the beginning of the game. They're running out, and you get great light for about the first quarter of this time of year where I live. So we're at ISO 250, 2.8, 1000, all right, 300 millimeters full frame. So it obviously looks great. You can zoom in There's not going to be any noise. Extremely sharp. So that looks good. Okay. All right, so here is, let's see, and I don't know what time actually. Okay, so this is at 7:12. I believe they scored on the opening kickoff. And so this is the return kick. This is the return for the second kickoff of the game. It's 7:12. So the first kickoff was returned for a touchdown. So the light is still good here. Now this is cropped. It's full frame, but it's cropped. So I'm gonna reset the crop here. You can press R in Lightroom to bring up the crop, and then we can go to reset crop up at the very top. Okay. Okay, so there's full frame, and we are at ISO 1250. So the sun must have gone down in that time below the bleachers. So that's why the change in ISO there, it was pretty dramatic, pretty quick there. But you can see, even though 1250, that's still incredibly sharp. There's no problem with noise. I mean, you can see it is a little bit noisier than like 250, but it's still not a big deal. Okay, so this is about 20 minutes later. So and this is still full frame. This is ISO 4000. So we're going up pretty quick because the sun is getting deeper back behind the stands. So there's a little bit more. This is still really sharp at 4000. That's still not a problem at all, which is really good because that's pretty high ISO, honestly. All right, now we're at 5000. Okay, this shows that I was quite a bit out of practice here with my action shots. They had a touchdown pass in the end zone, and I tracked it, but I missed the focus completely. And I actually got one of the other video guys that was filming in the back of the end zone. I sent this to him. He was pretty appreciative of that. So it worked out good. I was really mad, actually, when I missed it because I wanted the touchdown because that would have been a great shot. But luckily, I did get something out of it because I was able to give him a picture. So he appreciated that a lot. So we're at 5,000. If we zoom in, now you can see some noise here. Obviously, there's no noise reduction. I did bump the exposure up a little bit here. Now, because in the end zone like that, when you're deep on the side of the field, on one end, the lights tend to not be quite as bright, at least at the high schools around here, because there's only 2 lights on each side. There is one stadium that has 3, but this one only has 2. And it is pretty good light, but you can see it's a little bit darker. So I did raise the exposure a third of a stop. And I can actually show you the difference. So I don't know if you're gonna be able to see the difference on YouTube or not. Yeah, and it's not a big deal. It's pretty dark back there, but you can see that there's a little bit of noise, but definitely acceptable. I thought that was more of a funny shot than anything because I missed. And then this is gonna be later in the game. So this is about 8:30. So this is a good hour and a half in. Probably, I think this is the third, maybe, actually this may be the fourth quarter. So we are at, this is full frame also, we're at ISO 6400, same settings otherwise, and you can see that there's definitely some noise. Now his forearm actually is and his hand are the most sharp, or the sharpest things in the photo there. In this one, that's where the focus grabbed, but I mean, it's still, that's extremely clean. And you know, people freak out because, you know, they think ISO 6400 is way too high. And I don't even know, because YouTube's gonna compress this video, it may not even look that bad to you guys. But I mean, it doesn't look that bad to me in person. So I think that's definitely acceptable. Okay. So here's some more full frame. These are cropped though. So this is early on. This is 1250 again. You can see that's pretty tack sharp in on his eye. So, I mean, and his helmet, I mean, that's really good. Color's good. ISO 4000 again. We saw one of those earlier. This one's cropped, so it's going to be smaller. There's full frame. You can see the area. So this is 3748 by 2498 instead of 6000, which would be normally what it would be full frame. So you can see there's still plenty of detail there. Not a big deal. Even at 4000, that's still really good. All right, now here's one at 6400. This is later in the game. Let me look at this one real quick. Okay, so this is in the fourth quarter. I do remember this. Got some noise, but still, I mean, that's, you know, when you don't crop in a ton on these, the detail is still going to be really good. This is 4920, so it is cropped a little bit, not that big a deal. Still extremely sharp. That would be no problem printing that. Honestly, pretty big. Okay, and you know what? I tell you what, we're going to open this in Photoshop just to see. I don't know the dimensions other than pixels. I want to see what the inches are on this. whenever we open it, just to kind of see what it would look like. So 17 by 11, so that's, or 11 by 17, and actually if we go to 300 DPI, so now we're at 20 by 13, so that's almost a 16 by 20 at a camera, even though it's cropped. So, you know, that's absolutely acceptable. I remember back when I first started, my first real powerful camera was a Nikon D3S, and that came out of camera this size, actually, I think almost exactly. So that's, you know, back then that would have been the biggest that I could have got out of camera. So now I'm with a 25 megapixel camera instead of 12, so that allows me to crop in and get to about where I used to be, you know, back in like 2014, 2015, around there. That's when I had that camera, and you know, those files would still hold up really well, and this one does too, definitely. Okay, let's now save that, go back. And then this is another one. This is, say, cropped about the same. But again, we've got, you know, quite a bit of detail. And this one's actually down towards the end zone too, so it's a little bit darker down there, but still looks great. And did I adjust this? No, I didn't adjust this one at all. Definitely helps if they have some white on their jerseys too. You know, if they were in all black, it would be a little bit different. Okay, so if you go to menu, now keep in mind this is on a Sony, but this is a good tip for those of you that don't know, because I actually had one of my friends message me. He did not realize he got this lens and this camera too, and he didn't know that you could actually do this. So if you go down to the little suitcase on the left, and then you go to the third button down, the third option, which is Operation Customize, and then go to Custom Key Dial Set, then it shows you the different parts of your camera here, and the one that I set it to, and you can change any of these that you want. So I set on the first one, rear one, I set the number 1 button, which is the AEL button, to APS-C S35/full frame. That means crop sensor. So you're basically turning your camera into a crop sensor. When you press that button, it zooms in 1.5 times and crops it for you, which is the equivalent of, so this is a 300, so that would equivalent to a 450 millimeter lens, which is really nice, and that means that you don't have to buy a 400 millimeter lens, obviously. Now the downfall is that it does crop the picture also, so you're going from 6,000 pixels to 39 something, whatever that equals. It's actually, let's reset this. So you're going to go to 3936 by 2632 instead of 4,000 on the long end. Okay. All right. So then you select that button, and then you press it, and then you find, so you're going to find the button. So the crop button is going to be under the camera menu, go to image quality, and then right there. And then that's going to set that to crop. So whenever you're shooting, you just press that, and it crops in 1.5 times. So that's a good tip. Professional sports photographers are obviously going to know that, but guys that are portrait guys like me, or just do it, you know, part-time for fun, you're probably not going to know that. So, or you might not know it. So there you go. Okay. Okay, this actually needed to be in the next folder, but that's okay. All right, so this one was cropped in. So there's what it looked like cropped. It shot in crop mode, and then I actually cropped it in too, and you can see still quite a bit of detail there. This is at ISO 1000, but that's, you know, that's zoomed in even more. So it's at 2888, and that's by 1925. So let's just open that one just to see also. So that one's going to be 13 by 8, almost 9 at 300 DPI. So it's a little bit smaller, but still not a big deal. Most people are going to be sharing these on social media, you know, putting them on their phones. Now, if you print this, you got to watch it. You can still get this to 16 by 20, so it'll probably be fine. But, you know, if you're going to go much bigger, you probably wouldn't want to ever go much bigger than that. But if you did, it'd probably start to fall apart a little bit. Just something to remember, because you don't want to crop down too much. This one's not really cropped much at all. So that's full frame shot in crop mode at ISO 2000. Looks pretty nice. That's the first one we've looked at 2000. Here's another one. And this one is not cropped at all. And you can see the detail in that. He was pretty close, or relatively close, I guess, but that's full frame shot cropped. So you can see the bokeh here from this lens looks absolutely beautiful with a shot like that. I mean, it's awesome. You're not going to do much better than that as far as quality goes. All right, here's another one that's not cropped at all at ISO 4000. Still looking pretty good. And this one's up to 5000. And you can see the sharpness there. I mean, there's still a lot of detail. You can see some of his hair flying behind him there still. So really nice. And that's just incredible that that's at 5,000 ISO. And then now we're all the way up to 6,400, which again is the highest that I got. This is towards the end of the game. It is almost 8 o'clock, but you can still see really, really nice and sharp there. Okay. All right, now here's some more that are cropped in a little bit more. This one's even more than the one before, but still, you know, definitely acceptable for social media. Wouldn't want to print it probably bigger than like an 8x10, but you know, but for sharing, it's definitely good. This one looks pretty darn sharp. It's only at 1,000 ISO though, so that makes sense. And this one's at 2,000. Again, really nice. This one's all the way up to 6,400, so this one actually got this guy's back in focus there, but still not bad. And what was this at? So this is at 3160. Pulled in a little bit. This one's about the same, little bit less of a crop. This one's ISO 6,400 too, but you can see all the detail on his eyes there. Pretty good. And zoomed out, it definitely looks sharp, for sure. I mean, it is sharp. I was talking about you do lose detail with the more noise you have, obviously. So, okay, so that's the ones that I have to share. So overall, I could not be happier with this combination. I'm excited to shoot the rest of the season. It's going to be a lot of fun. You know, I was worried about the quality zooming in, but didn't seem to be an issue. Even when I cropped in on the 1.5 crop, everything looked great. This lens is absolutely incredible. It's super fast. And I will say too, my second body, I used my A7R5 because I sold my A1 to get the A9III. And going from this camera to that one, as far as action shots go, it was pretty crazy, the difference, because I'm used to the A7R5. And then I started shooting the action with this. I actually had to turn it down because you can go all the way up to 120 frames a second, which is absolutely nuts. There's very few times I would ever use that. It is nice to have it. Now, if it was a big game at the end of the game, you want to make sure you're not going to miss, you know, the shot. I can understand putting it on that. That would be something I would use very sparingly. I did not use it. I might test that at some point, but I didn't do it yet. I started out with 60 frames a second, I believe, and that was, I forgot to tell you at the beginning, I actually ended up with 11,000 pictures from this game because I shot a lot of the game. I wouldn't say a lot, probably the first quarter at 60 frames a second, and I knew it was fast at first, and I finally was like, I've got to turn this down. I'm gonna have way too many pictures. So I went down to 30, and I even think 30 may be too much. I'm probably gonna go back to 20, I would say, for most of these games because that's still incredibly fast. At 30 still almost looks like a movie. Well, actually, I think it was 60 that I shot, and I had a sequence of action, and I was going through it, and it's 60 frames a second, so it does look like a movie. That's technically what video is. And then 30 was still a little bit too fast. I think 20 is probably what I'm going to keep this at, just because this took me till 2 a.m. to hit this take because there were so many pictures, and I definitely learned a lesson from that. It's nice to be able to have the power to do that, but you don't want to do that every game. That was way too many. So I ended up with like 920 keepers that I wanted to put up for sale for the families and the athletes to look at. So, which is probably even too many, honestly, because normally I'd say 500 would probably be good, but you know, but I learned a lesson. Definitely, next time I'm going to turn it down to start with, unless it's a special like moment in the game that I need that many frames per second. So, but overall, I couldn't be happier. I'd highly recommend the camera and the lens. I know that these are not cheap. They're both, I think, $6,000 a piece. So you've got a big investment here if you do buy these, but if you're going to take action shots and be serious about it, then you need to be serious about your equipment too, and you're not going to get better than these two. So the 400 is nice, but it's $12,000. This thing for half the price, especially because you can zoom in to 1.5 with whatever camera you're using and still be okay even if you're at 25 megapixels and go at the 1.5 crop. I would definitely go with this because it's half the price and the quality on it is absolutely amazing. I've not used any lenses that are this fast, honestly, with the autofocus. It's just, and super sharp. So, all right, well, I hope that you guys got something out of that. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments below. I always try to answer those. Make sure that you hit the like and subscribe button. If you did get something out of it, make sure you hit the bell so you get notified when we post new content. There's going to be a lot more to come. We'll see you next time.